Saoirse Eastwood.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, 2 years ago, people voted for change. But what have they got? More of the same. Yep. But it hasn't been them that have let down their end of the bargain. My constituents are working themselves to the bone. And let's be absolutely clear, they are working and still having to claim benefits. There's not a single section of society, whether it's farmers, care workers, students, you name it, they have been let down. And I don't want that to be the case. We need to show that this House works for them, because actors will step into that space. People would love nothing more than our democracy to be toppled, because we cannot show our people a better way of life. We used to say to people, if you work hard, you get on in life. That hasn't been the case for years. Will this government now change economic and fiscal course and deliver for people in the worst cost of living crisis?
Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, wages are going up higher in the first year of this Labour government than they did in the 10 years of the party opposite being in power. We've taken the decision at the budget to cut energy bills across the country. I was in Northern Ireland, as she knows, just a few weeks ago, making the announcement about heating oil, which is obviously of huge concern in Northern Ireland, hearing what people had to say, putting in place £53 million. The authorities in Northern Ireland will administer that, but we're looking more widely at what we can do.
Gregory Campbell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Prime Minister, there is severe hardship being experienced by businesses, consumers and families right across the United Kingdom. Not just normal cost of living costs, but fuel costs is exceptionally high and getting higher. There are protests being organised as we speak for next week. Prime Minister, we need action delivered as quickly as possible in order to ensure that these protests don't escalate out of control and people see that politics matters, governments listen and take action rather than just offer words.
Can I thank him for his question? I know that his constituents and all of those in Northern Ireland are concerned about the impact that the war in Iran is having on them. I was in Northern Ireland just a few weeks ago where I spoke directly to party leaders and we announced what we're doing in that regard on heating oil. Obviously, fuel duty is frozen until September. Energy bills have been reduced. And we've also made it clear that we wouldn't tolerate profiteering or unfair practices, which was a particular concern raised with me when I was over in Northern Ireland. The most important thing we can do is to de-escalate the conflict and get the Straits of Hormuz open, and that's why I'm co-hosting the summit on Friday in order to make progress on both those fronts.
Thank you. Mr Speaker, welfare spending is set to rise by another £70 billion by 2030. And the last time I asked the Prime Minister about this, he said he was mending the system. Well, since then, Mr Speaker, this disastrous Labour government have raised taxes on working people to give even more to those who don't. The people I speak to across Broxbourne think that this Labour government are taking them for mugs. So what does the Prime Minister say to working people across this United Kingdom who are being asked to pay more and are getting less?
I'll tell them they were let down very badly by the last government for 14 years, and we're clearing up the mess.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. After 25 years on Prince's Risborough High Street, retailer Cato have said they are closing, citing hikes in business rates and the increases on taxation on employing people amongst their reasons. A few yards up on Duke Street, Salon 24 Hair, for the first time in 21 years, cannot afford to take on a new apprentice. How many more businesses need to close, jobs be lost, and apprenticeship opportunities trashed need to happen before this Prime Minister understands that the practical outturn of his policies aren't working?
Well, I'm concerned to hear of those examples. We have put in place support for small businesses, and I'll make sure that's available to him to pass on to his constituents.
Dave Robertson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Tomorrow night I will be hosting a public meeting about the chronically delayed Burntwood Health Centre. For over a decade, well over a decade, people in my town have been let down by the lack of this replacement facility. We thought there might be light at the end of the tunnel when we were promised it by the end of 2025, but the end of last year came and went. No health centre and not even a planning permission. Will the Prime Minister agree with me that the County Council, now led by Reform, have promised a new health centre to the people of Burntwood, and they must make sure that there are no more broken promises to my constituents?
Yeah. Prime Minister.
Well, he's a great champion for his constituents, and it's shocking that they've been waiting over a decade for this practice. I agree with him, but sadly, Reform's leadership in Staffordshire is an absolute mess. They've had three leaders in 3 months. One of them forced to step down for appalling racist comments, and they're simply not getting on with the job. He's obviously proud of that. All you can count on for Reform is chaos and division.
Final question, David Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last year, my constituents suffered the closure of the urgent care centre at Mount Vernon Hospital. And this year they face the loss of the cancer centre as well, leaving my most vulnerable constituents with long and difficult journeys to access life-saving and life-sustaining treatment. So will he encourage his Health Secretary to join in the U-turns and guarantee the future of Mount Vernon Hospital?
I don't know the particular details of his hospital, but I will make sure that they're looked into. We have put record investment into the NHS, but now he's raised that, I will make sure we look specifically into the case that he's raised here in this House.
Trent David, Leader of the Liberal Democrat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I echo the words of the Prime Minister about the Southport inquiry and also the 37th anniversary of the Hillsborough tragedy? Our thoughts are with all the families affected and the survivors, and I hope he will deliver on the Hillsborough law. Today, Mr. Speaker, also marks the 3rd anniversary of the start of the devastating civil war in Sudan. I hope he will recommit to real action in the face of the world's greatest humanitarian catastrophe. Mr. Speaker, in a phone call with Sky News last night, President Trump has threatened to rip up his trade deal with the UK as punishment for us not joining his idiotic war in Iran. Mr. Speaker, this must be the last straw. Surely the Prime Minister can't send our King to meet a man who treats our country like a mafia boss running a protection racket.
Minister.
Can I join him in his comments about Sudan? We often overlook the fact this is the greatest humanitarian crisis facing the world at the moment. My position on the Iran war has been clear from the start. We're not going to get dragged into this war. It is not our war. And a lot of pressure has been applied to me to take a different course. And that pressure included what happened last night. I'm not going to change my mind. I'm not going to yield. It is not in our national interest to join this war, and we will not do so. I know where I stand. Mr. Speaker, in relation to the King's visit, the purpose of the visit is to mark the 250th anniversary of relations and independence, obviously, of the US. The monarchy is an important reminder of the long-standing bonds and enduring relationship between our two countries, which are far greater than anyone who occupies any particular office at any particular time.
Sir Ed Davey.
Mr. Speaker, President Trump is one of the most unpredictable people we have seen on the world stage, and I hope he does not embarrass our monarch. But moving on, Mr. Speaker, last year the Prime Minister claimed he'd done some special deal, so Brits will be able to sail through e-gates at EU airports. But that's not the experience of families returning from holiday this week. Long queues at borders and passport controls are the latest symbol of the Brexit disaster. But they're also a symbol of this government's failure to repair that damage. So will the Prime Minister apologise for misleading British travellers? And can he tell them when they will be able to sail through passport control?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I've made it very clear that I think our national interest lies in closer relationship with the EU on defence, security, energy and the economy. And I was very pleased that at last year's summit we did negotiate an agreement on e-gates, and we're pushing hard on that. We have another summit this year where I intend not just to make good on what we've already agreed, but to go closer to the EU in the relations that we have.